In 2025, something uncanny happened on our screens. Meg Ryan, the girl next door icon whose smile once lit up every rom-com of the 90s, looked strikingly different. Viewers paused videos in disbelief, refreshing feeds to be sure they were seeing what they thought they saw. Was this really the same woman who melted hearts in When Harry Met Sally? Or had some unforeseen transformation taken place? The buzz exploded overnight as beauty blogs, celebrity forums, and TikTok creators dissected every angle, zooming into cheeks, comparing jawlines, tracing the curve of her lips. Meg Ryan's face transformation has us doing a double take, became the clickbait headline that hooked millions. But beneath the shock and the memes, there's a deeper story about aging, reinvention, and the fragile intersection of fame and self-image. Few public figures are as closely tied to the concept of natural beauty as Meg Ryan. In an era before Instagram filters and heavy contouring, her radiant complexion and playful freckles symbolized honesty on camera. Fans felt they knew Meg, the bright eyes crinkling at the corners, the gentle laugh that suggested every moment was lived with genuine curiosity. Even as she aged gracefully off-screen, there was an implicit promise that time would only enhance her warmth, not distort it. So when early 2025 paparazzi snaps showed smoother skin, higher cheekbones, and a subtler arch to her brows, jaws dropped. Speculation ran wild. Was it genetics? A new skincare revelation? Or had she finally succumbed to the knife and the needle? To understand the magnitude of the reaction, consider the psychology behind our fascination with celebrity transformations. We project ideals onto stars, elevating them as aspirational figures. When those figures change, especially when change feels jarring, it forces us to confront our own insecurities about aging and authenticity. Social media is awash with videos comparing before versus after Meg Ryan, overlaying her 1990s interviews with fresh red carpet footage. Beauty influencers break down possible procedures, a lifted brow hinting at a mini lift, plumper lips suggesting filler, bone sculpting injections behind the cheeks. Dermatologists weigh in, citing trends in preventative aging that blend subtle surgery with targeted injectables. The verdict? Many agree the transformation is real, yet masterful in its restraint. Almost untraceable to the untrained eye, though unmistakable to those who grew up watching her career bloom. But let's pause on that word, unmistakable. How does one measure change when the baseline is a beloved icon? The real story begins not with celebrity gossip, but with our own relationship to time. Meg Ryan was a cinematic fixture at the dawn of the digital era, when VHS tapes clicked onto screens and audiences flocked to the movies for genuine human connection. Her early roles exuded vulnerability and authenticity, traits that felt refreshing in a landscape crowded with larger-than-life personalities. Over the years, as beauty standards evolved and audiences consumed images at warp speed, the pressure on stars to maintain an unchanging visage intensified. What once seemed like a blessing, eternal youth captured on film, became a burden. Every wrinkle risked a headline. Every line under the eyes a trending hashtag. In the months leading up to the 2025 explosion, insiders whispered about Meg's secret wellness routines. A close friend told People magazine that she'd been exploring holistic anti-aging protocols, cryotherapy sessions in London, red light therapy beds in her Manhattan loft, collagen-boosting diets heavy on marine proteins. On her Instagram stories, she teased new supplements and exercise regimens, Pilates stretches filmed in her sunlit kitchen, green smoothies named after her dogs. Fans embraced these glimpses as proof that natural beauty could be cultivated, not manufactured. Yet none of these routines accounted for the subtly altered facial contours now dominating gossip sites. The missing link, experts say, lies in a combination of minimally invasive procedures, tiny incisions, precise neurotoxins, and the strategic placement of hyaluronic acid. Now, imagine you're Meg Ryan considering this path. You've been defined by your face for decades, the quintessential romantic, the warm-hearted lead. Every smile captured, every tear shed, every laugh line etched into film reels is part of your public legacy. When the mail arrives, it brings fan letters praising your performances and, behind the scenes, calls from agents fretting over your marketability. At some point, The decision to tweak just a little seems less about vanity and more about control. In a world that demands youth and consistency from women of a certain age, the choice to preserve a signature look can feel like self-preservation. But that choice also carries risk. What if the world feels betrayed instead of inspired? What if authenticity gets traded for artifice? The pivotal moment came at a gala last spring when Meg appeared alongside industry heavyweights. Photographers swarmed her as she descended the red carpet steps, wearing a fluid, emerald green gown that echoed the forest hues of her Seattle childhood. The flashbulbs popped, and online threads erupted instantly. Is that really Meg Ryan? The same voice that once whispered, "I'll have what she's having," now questioned whether that face was even hers. Yet in the 60 seconds her images circulated, something remarkable happened. A wave of support followed the scrutiny. Messages poured in, applauding her for being unafraid to evolve, for modeling a different kind of aging fight, one waged with both science and serenity. It became, in a strange twist, a moment of collective catharsis about the tension between nature and nurture, agency and expectation. Behind the scenes, her team handled the fallout with surprising candor. Instead of issuing a blanket denial or stern legal warnings, they released a brief statement acknowledging that Meg believes in a proactive approach to self-care, a philosophy rooted in metered modernization rather than radical reinvention. "We all evolve," the statement read. "Some of us choose to refine, some to rediscover." For Meg, every choice has been guided by a desire to feel as confident on the inside as she appears on the outside. The message resonated because it framed the dialogue not as a scandal, but as a deeply personal journey. It reminded us that, at its core, beauty maintenance is an act of self-expression, a reclamation of control over bodies that images often try to own. As the debate continues, pundits arguing about natural wrinkles versus strategic smoothing. The deeper truth remains untouched. We're fascinated by the transformation because it forces us to ask what we value in ourselves and others. Is authenticity measured by age spots or by the courage to make choices that align with our evolving sense of self? Is aging a betrayal of identity or a testament to lived experience? Meg Ryan's face transformation has us doing a double take, not just because it looks different, but because it compels us to confront our own reflections in the mirror of pop culture. And as we scroll, debate, and share, one thing becomes clear. The most powerful beauty statements are the ones that spark honest conversation about who we were, who we are, and who we choose to become. Not long after the initial shockwaves hit TikTok and celebrity forums, whispers emerged of a clandestine retreat where Meg quietly embarked on a week-long regimen of cutting-edge facial therapies. It wasn't the typical red carpet montage of hydrofacials and jade roller routines you might expect from a pop-up Instagram highlight. Instead, insiders say she opted for an experimental skin lattice protocol, combining nanoneedling with stem cell-infused serums designed to stimulate fibroblast activity at a molecular level. The catch? Most clinics won't advertise such options publicly. They're reserved for A-list clientele willing to sign non-disclosure agreements. In other words, Meg's transformation didn't start with a celebrity esthetician's viral TikTok tip. It began in a discreet lab where science meets luxury. Dermatologists explained that nanoneedling creates minuscule channels in the skin, which then serve as conduits for potent rejuvenating compounds. By infusing those channels with bioactive stem cell derivatives, practitioners aim to jumpstart the body's own repair mechanisms, triggering collagen synthesis and strengthening the extracellular matrix. The result is firmer cheeks, less visible jowls, and a smoother complexion without the telltale signs of a full surgical facelift. It's a subtler approach that can take months to reach peak effect, which explains why the difference in Meg's appearance seemed to unfold gradually, leaving onlookers puzzled by the incremental shifts rather than an overnight before and after. But let's consider the psychology of incremental change versus drastic overhaul. When a celebrity debuts a completely new look, extreme lip augmentation, a sharp jawline, or a lifted brow that freezes every expression, public reaction often swings between enthusiastic endorsement and outright backlash. The suddenness creates a shock factor that's impossible to ignore. Yet when change trickles in over time, it can feel like discovering an old painting has been retouched stroke by stroke. You don't notice the alterations until you step back and absorb the masterpiece anew. Meg Ryan's transformation followed that latter path. Small adjustments, each one discreet enough to avoid immediate scrutiny, but collectively creating an undeniable shift in her overall visage. Equally fascinating is the way she managed the narrative. Rather than deploying a typical celebrity buffeted by paparazzi cruiser shots, Meg's team subtly released curated images from private gatherings, photos that captured her profile in soft lighting, her skin aglow, her cheekbones defined yet natural. One image showed her laughing mid-conversation at a charity dinner, her eyes still carrying that familiar sparkle, while another caught her in profile against a sunset backdrop, her jawline suddenly appearing more sculpted than ever before. These controlled leaks served dual purposes. They distracted from raw paparazzi angles and gave fans just enough context to believe the changes were part of an intentional rebranding rather than an invasive procedure. Let's not overlook the role of makeup artistry and digital post-production, either. While experts insist her structural changes are too pronounced to be solely the work of contouring, skilled artists can amplify subtle enhancements with strategic shading, luminous highlighter, and a dewy foundation that visually lifts the skin. In an industry where high-definition cameras peel back every pore, lighting teams know how to accentuate the best angles, casting shadows in all the right places, softening under-eye hollows, and smoothing forehead lines. Meg's recent film premiere showcased exactly this synergy between technique and technology. Her makeup appeared so seamless that critics debated whether the studios had employed prototype cosmetic filters directly in the video feed. Amid all this speculation, a deeper question emerges. Why does Meg Ryan's slight adjustment spark a broader conversation about self-image? The answer lies in the paradox of celebrity. We simultaneously crave change and consistency. We want to witness our icons evolve, stay fresh, and skirt the inevitability of time. Yet we also cling to the versions that defined our youth. For Meg Ryan, who once epitomized the golden age of 90s rom-com sincerity, her face becomes shorthand for an era we long to revisit. Any deviation from that mental snapshot feels personal, like a friend we've known since adolescence has altered their voice or even their walk. The transformation is more than skin deep. It resonates as a shift in our own emotional landscape. In the cacophony of speculation, Meg herself remained a quiet presence. Rather than rushing to late-night talk shows to address the swirling rumors, she opted for subtlety. A single Instagram story showcasing her morning routine, another sharing a laugh with longtime co-star Sally Field on a nostalgic reunion set. Those few moments of spontaneity did more to humanize her change than any formal press release could. They reminded viewers that beneath the tweaked cheeks and smoother contours lies the same person who once blushed at a heartfelt monologue or danced barefoot in a spontaneous kitchen scene. By juxtaposing the new images with memories of her authentic candidness, Meg reclaimed the narrative. The story wasn't about artificiality, but about a woman curating her own comfort in both body and career. Yet this choice wasn't without risk. In a media environment primed for scandal, ambiguity can breed suspicion. Some critics accused her of covert cosmetic deception, arguing that selective disclosures bred a sense of distrust. They claimed the public had a right to know exactly what procedures were performed and who covered the costs, especially if she continued to serve as a brand ambassador for anti-aging lines. Meg's camp deflected these calls by emphasizing her privacy rights. Meg has always stood for authenticity, her spokesperson noted, and that includes the right to make personal choices without public dissection. The statement drew more headlines, some sympathetic, others scathing, but it underscored a pivotal truth. Privacy in the public eye is a battleground where reputation and respect are at stake. As days turned into weeks, the conversation evolved once again. Pundits began to shift from forensic analysis of her brows to broader debates about the cultural obsession with perpetual youth. Late-night hosts rallied comedic monologues around the absurdity of chasing wrinkle-free perfection, while panelists on daytime talk shows discussed the disparity between male and female expectations, pointing out how male actors often age naturally without the same level of scrutiny. Meg's transformation became a mirror held up to society, reflecting the uneven pressures placed on women in the limelight. And it invited us to ask ourselves, If maintaining one's appearance is a form of self-expression, where do we draw the line between empowerment and societal coercion? In that unfolding dialogue, Meg Ryan's face transformation transcended mere gossip. It became a catalyst for examining our collective anguish over aging and authenticity. It revealed that behind every glimmering facade lies a complex weave of personal choice, professional necessity, and cultural conditioning. And it reminded us that the most resonant transformations are those that prompt honest reflection on who we are and who we aspire to become. Now, with attention fixed on every contour and crease, Meg Ryan has quietly turned this moment of speculation into an opportunity to shape her next act. While critics debated whether her new look betrayed her down-to-earth charm, insiders revealed she has two film projects in late-stage development, roles that lean into her evolving aesthetic rather than hiding it. One is a high-profile streaming drama in which she plays a retiree who reinvents herself through a creative collective, echoing Meg's real-life embrace of transformation. The other is an offbeat indie comedy about a former sitcom star navigating social media scrutiny, a premise that eerily mirrors her own experience with public perception. In casting meetings, executives reportedly cited her recent metamorphosis as evidence of her willingness to embody characters with depth and complexity, rather than relying on the girl next door typecasting of earlier decades. These forthcoming appearances dovetail with a broader trend in Hollywood: mature actresses reclaiming agency over their narratives and appearances. Reese Witherspoon, Laura Linney, and Charlize Theron have all spoken about navigating the transition from ingenue to leading lady to character actor, often negotiating for roles that allow them to display vulnerability alongside strength. Meg's choice to subtly reshape her visage suggests she, too, is curating an image aligned with this new paradigm, one where age becomes an asset, not an obstacle. The transformation, then, is not merely cosmetic, it's a strategic repositioning. By softly refining her features, she signals to casting directors, audiences, and brands that she remains dynamic, relevant, and attuned to the ways in which appearance and perception continue to intersect in a visual culture. Public reaction has been equally telling. On social media, longtime fans have staged a phenomenon of collective reappraisal. Hashtags like hashtag Meg Then and Now and hashtag Aging Reimagined flooded Twitter feeds, with users sharing side-by-side frames from Sleepless in Seattle and fresh images from this year's CinemaCon. Younger viewers, unburdened by nostalgic attachment, approached the images with curiosity rather than consternation, spawning threads that argued the transformation looks both tasteful and triumphant. Meanwhile, forums dedicated to celebrity makeovers began dissecting the ethics of aesthetic adjustments. Is a slight cheek lift a betrayal of authentic aging, or a valid expression of self-love? The firestorm of discussion suggests that Meg's face has become shorthand for deeper anxieties about time, beauty, and self-determination. Industry experts have weighed in, too. A leading casting director told Variety that Meg's refreshed appearance broadens her marketability. We're at a point where audiences appreciate when a familiar face shows growth: physical, emotional, artistic. Meg's nuanced transformation complements the sockets of wisdom in her performances. A prominent branding consultant concurred, noting that celebrities increasingly engage in image evolution as part of a cohesive personal brand strategy. If done thoughtfully, it extends career longevity. Meg appears to have executed change in incremental phases, which is key to maintaining trust with one's fan base. This trust dynamic cannot be overstated. When celebrities make bold aesthetic moves, the most powerful currency they exchange is credibility. Meg's team wisely leveraged her reputation for sincerity. Her interviews have long radiated warmth and approachability, to reassure fans that these changes were not the product of contrived spin, but a personal choice anchored in self-care. By releasing candid glimpses of her at home, mixing protein shakes in her New York kitchen, enjoying a quiet afternoon with her rescue dog, she reminded viewers that simple moments of authenticity can coexist with a discreet veneer of refinement. In doing so, she flipped the script. The makeover became an extension of her personal narrative rather than a departure from it. Yet the conversation around her transformation also underscores the persistent double standard in celebrity culture. Male actors entering their 50s and 60s, like George Clooney or Matthew McConaughey, routinely age on screen without the same level of microscopic analysis. Their evolving features are often lauded as signs of gravitas. A University of Southern California study on ageism in media revealed that actresses receive 40% more online commentary about their appearance when they turn 50 than their male peers do. Meg's face transformation, then, serves as a case study in this disparity. While some applaud her decision to fine-tune her look, others question why she isn't allowed the same grace to age naturally that male counterparts enjoy. This juxtaposition has ignited newfound discussions about equity in Hollywood and beyond, reinforcing that choices about one's body inevitably intersect with broader questions of gender and power. Meanwhile, beneath the glittering surface of red carpets and stylish charts, Meg herself seems to be embracing a deeper evolution. In recent interviews, she's spoken about a growing interest in narrative filmmaking, directing short projects that explore themes of self-redefinition and creative rebirth. Peers describe her energy as invigorated, as though the act of refining her appearance has unlocked new reservoirs of confidence both on set and off. Close friends observe that she now selects roles with an eye toward authenticity, characters who mirror her own journey of metamorphosis, grappling with the tension between external perception and internal truth. As the entertainment industry braces for her next public appearances, the real story transcends the superficial glow of her complexion. Meg Ryan's face transformation has us doing a double take not merely because she looks different, but because it crystallizes enduring questions about identity and agency. In a culture that commodifies youth, her measured approach to change asserts the right to evolve on her own terms. In a space that rewards conformity, her subtle reinvention champions personal sovereignty. And in an era that venerates authenticity, her ongoing dialogue with fans offers a model for navigating the complex interplay between self-expression and self-preservation. Ultimately, the gaze this transformation invites is as much about looking inward as it is about looking outward. Meg Ryan's journey prompts us to consider, how do we want to grow? Which aspects of ourselves do we choose to refine, and which do we preserve? And as we witness her face subtly rewritten, we're reminded that the most compelling transformations are those that resonate with heart, intention, and narrative synergy. In this light, every double take becomes a mirror, reflecting our own aspirations for authenticity amid change. The transformation's ripples have reached far beyond red carpets and beauty blogs. They've ignited a quiet revolution in how we view aging, authenticity, and personal agency. In the weeks after Meg Ryan's subtle metamorphosis became public fodder, mental health advocates began sharing her story as an example of self-compassion. The National Alliance on Mental Illness tweeted, "Meg reminds us that self-care can take many forms. Whether you choose therapy, thyroid check UPS, or a new hairstyle, the choice is yours." Suddenly, discussions about cosmetic decisions took on a gentler tone, not shame or scandal, but acknowledgement that caring for oneself, body and mind, is a valid form of resilience. Simultaneously, public policy think tanks seized on the disparity between male and female aging trajectories that Meg's situation exposed. A coalition of lawmakers in California proposed new guidelines for entertainment contracts, urging studios to include mandatory mental health resources and transparent health stipends for talent over 50. Industry insiders dubbed it the Ryan Amendment, arguing that if a small tweak to facial structure could provoke conversation about ageism, perhaps it could also catalyze concrete protections for artists. If passed, these measures could ensure that stars like Meg, not to mention countless crew members working behind the scenes, have access to nutritionists, counselors, and anti-fatigue treatments without fear of career repercussions. On the commercial front, beauty brands have scrambled to align themselves with Meg's approach, launching product lines that emphasize mindful enhancement and intentional evolution. One clean beauty firm introduced a serum called Ryan Radiance, boasting adaptogenic extracts to support skin resilience, packaged with a card that quotes Meg, "A smile should reflect your soul, not a filter." Influencers rushed to post tutorial videos labeled "Celebrate Your Change," showing how to use transitional makeup to accentuate improvements without masking the face beneath. The campaign reframed cosmetic routines as self-affirming rituals rather than episodes of self-critique. Thanks, in large part, to the unspoken endorsement of one of Hollywood's most beloved figures. Parallel to consumer products, philanthropic efforts blossomed under the banner of intentional aging. The Actors Fund, a nonprofit supporting performance professionals, announced a partnership with celebrity dermatologist clinics to offer pro bono skin consultations and low-cost injectable procedures for pension-eligible performers. In a nod to Meg's discreet stance, the program was dubbed Graceful Transitions, emphasizing dignity and choice. Theater communities tweeted praise, calling it the first initiative that validates our desire to look and feel our best at every stage. Local chapters in Chicago, Atlanta, and Los Angeles reported waiting lists for appointments, signaling that the appetite for proactive self-care spans far beyond Hollywood. Meanwhile, the academic world has begun to catalog this cultural shift. A forthcoming issue of the Journal of Media Psychology includes a study showing that audiences exposed to Meg Ryan's managed transformation reported lower anxiety about their own aging compared to control groups. Researchers concluded that seeing a familiar face evolve with intention can normalize the idea that appearance and authenticity aren't mutually exclusive. Collegiate film and gender studies departments are adding modules on celebrity aesthetics and age narratives, using Meg's case as a prime example of how personal choice can become public discourse. Workshops at the University of Southern California invited students to debate whether cosmetic refinement constitutes a form of rebellion against ageism or capitulation to it, and the turnout exceeded expectations, reflecting genuine student investment in the topic. On the career front, Meg's soft-launched film projects began to debut footage, and reactions suggest that audiences have warmed to her evolution as an extension of her artistry. Early clips from the streaming drama show her character rocking a chic, layered bob, an echo of Meg's real-world changes, while mentoring a group of community artists restoring a faded theater. In reviews, critics noted that her refined features lent her character an aura of weathered elegance, reinforcing that aesthetic choices can serve narrative purposes. In the indie comedy, trailers highlight her expressive new cheekbones, juxtaposed with the character's comedic frustration at social media trolls. It's a meta-commentary that blurs the line between Meg's lived experience and her on-screen persona, inviting viewers to laugh with her rather than at her. As this next act unfolds, the most intriguing question remains: what will Meg Ryan choose to reveal next? The smart money is on continued balance, selective openness about her self-care rituals, paired with creative projects that mirror her personal growth. Perhaps she'll publish a memoir chapter on the psychology of appearance, blending anecdotes from when Harry met Sally with insights from her own medical consultations. Or maybe she'll collaborate with wellness experts to launch a mind-body evolution retreat, offering workshops on voice coaching, yoga for facial muscles, and group therapy sessions on self-acceptance. Whatever the path, she's demonstrated that transformation need not be a secret or a spectacle, but a thoughtful journey shared on her own terms. In the final analysis, Meg Ryan's face transformation has achieved something far more lasting than a fleeting headline. It has sparked nuanced conversations about agency, resilience, and the evolving meaning of authenticity in a hypervisual age. By choosing subtlety over shock, openness over denial, and intentionality over impulse, she reframed cosmetic change as a deeply personal act rather than a vacuous trend. And in doing so, she reminded us that our own transformations, external and internal, deserve the same dignity: incremental, self-driven, and unapologetically human. Even as red carpets cool and beauty columns move on, the ripples from Meg Ryan's transformation keep expanding into unexpected realms, challenging our notions of choice, resilience, and collective empathy. Among the most profound aftershocks is the way individuals in everyday life are beginning to re-examine personal milestones. Inspired by her intentional embrace of change, people chronicle micro-upgrades in their own routines. A friend books her first dermatology consult in a decade, another experiments with subtle brow reshaping, and a cousin decides to invest in a pair of reading glasses that finally feel worthy of her face on Zoom calls. No longer do these acts carry the whisper of vanity. They carry a sense of self-respect. We've witnessed how a public figure can shift the cultural lens, reframing private decisions about appearance into acts of personal empowerment rather than secretive concessions to pressure. This reframing also finds momentum in workplaces striving to support aging employees. Progressive firms now roll out Care to Courage workshops that borrow directly from the language of Meg's journey. Human resources teams offer confidential seminars on aesthetic autonomy, covering topics from ethical aesthetic medicine to tactics for balancing self-care with societal pressures. Men and women across industries share testimonials about reclaiming their image. Stories once deemed too personal for the office now celebrated as markers of professional authenticity. One tech startup even funded a pilot program granting stipends for employees over 40 to explore physical or mental health resources. The aim is clear: build environments where aging is not a whisper in the hallway but an open dialogue that affirms dignity at every stage. Meanwhile, in creative corridors, writers and directors are drawing inspiration from the nuanced narrative Meg's profile shift has cast. Scripts now feature protagonists who undergo transformations not for external validation, but as intrinsic rites of passage. Television anthologies incorporate episodes where characters consult aesthetic experts as part of life transition storylines. Think a retiree exploring new passions or a teacher reclaiming confidence after years of self-neglect. These arcs echo Meg's real-life balance of maintaining core identity while welcoming evolution. Audiences respond with an almost universal warmth because these stories mirror our own silent questions. What would it feel like to change if change were purely our choice? How do we weave self-renewal into the tapestry of our lived experiences? Across social media, support communities flourish under tags like #MyOwnMegMoment, where individuals post before and after images of small changes, new hairstyles, wardrobe tweaks, or fitness routines, and share testimonials on how these choices bolstered their mental health. Unlike cliched transformation reels, these posts emphasize personal narrative: a mother describing the confidence she found after a signature eyebrow sculpt, a retiree recounting the joy of ordering a first wig to manage thinning hair, a non-binary person exploring facial hair removal in pursuit of authentic self-presentation. In every post, the underpinning message is clear: change need not be grand to be profound. It just needs to be honest. Educational institutions, too, are adapting. A series of online masterclasses titled Transform on Your Terms, spearheaded by leading life coaches and cosmetic scientists, cites Meg Ryan's journey as a case study in intentional evolution. Participants learn to navigate informed consent with practitioners, weigh psychological readiness for aesthetic procedures, and assess long-term maintenance implications. The courses extend beyond mere tutorials. They foster peer support circles where learners discuss fears, expectations, and gratitude for the autonomy to decide. Enrollment numbers have soared, reflecting a hunger for guided self-exploration in a world where we often outsource decisions to algorithms and trends. Perhaps most touching is how families integrate these lessons in real time. Parents and children use Meg's story to open dialogues about self-image. Conversations that once felt taboo now flow naturally at family dinners. A daughter might ask her mother about the courage it takes to adjust one's look after 50, and a mother might ask her daughter what natural beauty means in an age of filters. These exchanges plant seeds of mutual respect, dissolving generational divides and perceptions of aging and appearance. The simple act of discussing the nuances of one woman's facial transformation becomes a bridge to deeper understanding about autonomy, expectation, and love. In this wave of change, Meg Ryan's single decision to refine her visage has become a catalyst for far more than aesthetic trends. It has opened doors to conversations we once only whispered, infused workplaces with new policies of dignity, inspired art that reflects intentional growth, and strengthened bonds across households. The true power lies not in the tweak of skin or bone, but in the dialogue her transformation has ignited, a dialogue about agency, authenticity, and the profound freedom that comes when we claim our right to evolve. In the months since Meg Ryan's transformation became the world's most nuanced spectacle, its echo has woven into the fabric of everyday choices and broader cultural shifts. In corporate hallways, HR directors cite her example when designing wellness perks. from subsidized skincare consultations to mental health days that support appointments with psychologists or nutritionists. Employees once hesitant to request time off for personal care now frame their needs as integral to job performance, inspired by how Meg reframed self-maintenance as professional self-investment. The idea that attending to one's appearance can fuel confidence and productivity, rather than detract from it, has gained traction in organizations that once dismissed cosmetic interests as fluffy or frivolous. Meanwhile, the academic world has embraced her story as a case study in multiple disciplines. Business schools assign her career pivot and carefully choreographed image update as examples in courses on brand management. Psychology programs analyze how her public narrative reduced stigma around cosmetic procedures, enabling research into how perceived control over one's appearance can impact self-esteem and social anxiety. Sociology professors examined the ripple effects of one beloved celebrity's choice on societal norms about aging and beauty, prompting scholarly articles that parse the interplay of media messaging, personal agency, and collective empathy. Even medical ethics classes discuss her stem cell treatments and covert nanoneedling retreats as springboards for debates on patient autonomy and informed consent that on the creative frontline, writers, filmmakers, and artists have woven her transformation into their work. A playwright in Chicago premiered a dramedy about a middle-aged woman who plans incremental aesthetic changes alongside a life makeover. Her character's evolution charted through subtle shifts in costume and makeup until, at the climax, the final reveal sparks both audience applause and self-reflection. Television writers embed Easter egg references to her journey in scripts, as characters discuss whether a small cosmetic tweak might restore confidence after a career setback. Art collectives curate exhibitions titled Metamorphosis in Plain Sight, where multimedia installations trace the delicate boundary between artifice and authenticity through interactive digital portraits that visitors can adjust themselves, mirroring Meg's balance of personal choice and public gaze. Even family dynamics have absorbed the lesson of intentional transformation. Parents use her narrative to open conversations with teenage children about body image, explicitly linking choices about hair, skin, or fitness to personal agency rather than external pressure. Grandparents, who once admonished younger generations to let nature take its course, now inquire about new skincare routines and celebrate discreet changes, recognizing that self-investment is part of self-respect. Siblings share clip compilations of Meg's before and after press images, not to mock or shame, but to prompt discussions about the non-binary possibilities of aging gracefully. These intimate dialogues dismantle taboos and build bridges of understanding across generational divides that in local communities, salons, and spas have launched Mindful Makeover, workshops that integrate aesthetic services with guided conversation circles. Participants discuss the psychology of change as they learn contour techniques or new haircut styles, fostering an environment where personal transformation is both an act of beauty and an exercise in self-exploration. Libraries host book clubs pairing novels about reinvention with screenings of Meg's interviews and public appearances, encouraging readers to analyze how narrative arcs in fiction echo real-world evolutions. Even fitness studios that once focused solely on high-intensity workouts now offer mind-body classes that blend yoga, facial yoga, and breath work, all under the banner of cultivating inner confidence that radiates outward at the political and philanthropic level. Lawmakers and nonprofit leaders reference Meg's journey when advocating for transparency in the cosmetic industry and expanded access to mental health services. Proposals for legislation include language ensuring practitioners provide clear pre-procedure counseling on risks, costs, and alternatives, echoing the importance of informed consent illustrated by her covert nanoneedling experience. Charitable foundations organize evolution clinics in underserved areas, offering low-cost consultations with dermatologists, psychologists, and career coaches, combining aesthetic empowerment with vocational support. These integrated services recognize that visual self-enhancement and emotional well-being are intertwined, honoring Meg's implicit message that nurturing the self need not be siloed, but can be part of a cohesive strategy for personal growth through every ripple in boardrooms, classrooms, creative studios, family living rooms, and legislative chambers. The story of Meg Ryan's face transformation transcends celebrity gossip and becomes a multifaceted blueprint for intentional living. It underscores how a single public figure's careful decision to evolve on her own terms can spark conversations about autonomy, respect, and the art of growing older with dignity. In the subtle lift of a brow, the softening of a smile line, and the confident tilt of a head, we see not only a beloved actor reimagining her image, but an invitation to reimagine our own approach to change. And as each person translates her journey into personal action, whether through a small cosmetic tweak, an open dialogue with loved ones, or advocacy for systemic support, they carry forward the real legacy of her transformation, a collective affirmation that the power to refine, renew, and become more fully ourselves belongs to each of us.